So, just to recap the events of the previous episode, appreciate that John Taylor shall be the center of focus in this scene. So, during his incubation at the STM's indoctrination camp in Kudus, he manages to secure a scholarship from an organization called International Corridor of Scholarships to study neurosurgery at Harvard Medical School. In pursuance of this ambition, what must he do? He escapes from the STM's indoctrination camp in Kudus Mountains. Then the scene takes us to Kandahar International Airport, where we see our protagonist aboard an aircraft headed for New York. But what happens during the flight? Stay tuned to find that out. So I'll proceed. They called it the Dirty Hour, DH in short. Between 11 p.m. and 2 p.m., the human traffickers usually crept out of their hidouts. Like nocturnal creatures, they say, when the sun's generosity had vanished deep down, they sprang into action. The following events were taking place at the Miami Military Air Traffic Center control room. Two men scanned about tracking down these inglorious bastards. They scanned aircrafts, received coded identification and flight data information, gained access to flight plans and customs plea declarations. They talked to air traffic controllers and vectored in customs surveys and Coast Guard interceptor aircrafts to pursue suspect aircrafts. The names of these two men were Johnson and James Steele, twin brothers, CIA agent, newly deployed and straight from the Military University of Munich, Germany. On runway 06 at the MMATC, two US Air Force pilots readied themselves for takeoff. Their call signal was pump shit, designed by one Mr. Joe Smith, a veteran US Air Force One Senior Master Sergeant. By name, the two went Leonid and Nestor, the best of the best. Leonid stepped out the little lobby room east of the aircraft parking bay. Delightedly smoking, he got down on his left knee and tightened the lace of his shoe. Nestor, the co-pilot, dashed out, patted him on the back, and requested him to gather the crew so they would take a flight. Leonid, alarmed by Nestor's proposal, crushed his half-smoked Winston under the heel of his shoe. Such moments of adrenaline rush nourished his soul. This man was a brilliant co-pilot, his brother's keeper in air. 403D wing recruits from the Keesler Air Force Base made the crew, and by the time Nestor returned, the auxiliary power unit was on. The plane was a Dassault Begau Falcon 20 fighter jet, manufactured in Toulouse and assembled in Hamburg. It was a speed machine, a weapon of magnificent quality. On account of modern camouflage tactics, the crew assigned to the interdiction of human trafficking kept the unofficial name Falcon. The official designation in the Certificate of Registration of the Combat Surveillance Equipment was HU-55D, though used to track down terrorists in Mexico and Panama. A suspect plane was pursuing us, so Leonid and Nestor ventured to blow it up before it caught up with us. We'd been hijacked. A guy calling himself Mr. Herbert Stround suddenly announced that our plane was now under his control. He claimed 5 armed men were on board. and that we would have known who was, and that we wouldn't have known who was who, and that he'd changed our course for Moscow, Russia. Shocking announcement. Surprised, Yulia could only stare at me. She quivered like a little child out in the snow. Quickly, I reached into my underside of my K9 and drew a Django knife. Relax, I told her. All will be fine. She stretched out her hand, so I handed the knife over to her. Deploy it, and you'll be immortal. She trembled at that, but assured me she would be fine. Beg your pardon. In 5 minutes, I crept under the passenger seats, seat number 35, number 25, 15, battling 6 rows in about a minute. To get to the front cabin crew section, I had 7 more seats to go. That would take me 30 more seconds. I drew my shotgun and clasped it in my hand. Ready to fire. 20 seconds, 5 rows. 7 seconds remained and 7 rows were done. I was faster than I thought. I glanced at my wristwatch. Like an alligator, I crept further, anticipating the worst. 6 seconds, cabin crew section. No cause for alarm yet. I ventured into my jeans trousers side pocket and plucked out a little penknife. Quickly I popped it open. The electrical bay panel number 41 was right next to the forward exit door. I pinned the razor-sharp penknife onto the upholstery floor, making an X cut. Popping back the cutting edge, I drew a small pentalobe style screwdriver. 5 more seconds to go were gone. I drove out 1 screw. With 2 screws out, 10 minutes had elapsed. In a trickle of 20 minutes, 3 screws were off their seats. The last pair was gone within the 25th. With a hard gesture, I assured a knot of scared flight attendants that everything was going to be alright, that I was going to take care of the situation, that everything was under control, that no one was going to get hurt. They shivered in fright, but nodded in unison. Just stood about a little corner like a tray of squirrels, they watched me crawl by. For a moment I was sure they would melt down in fear. I love it not at all. I pulled and eased myself through the access gap to the aircraft electrical bay. Carelessly, I stashed my gun into my pocket, rested my feet onto a thin metallic bar above the floor of the bay, and pulled the panel lid shut. It was so hot in there, unbearable heat. Now, for those who would like to know about the Falcon aircraft herein indicated and being flown by Leonid and Nestor, the General Dynamics Fighting Falcon is basically a single-engine, multi-role fighter aircraft originally developed by the General Dynamics for the United States Air Force. It was so hot in there, unbearable heat. I had jumped into a pressure cooker, basically. For a while, I searched carefully. A clearance appeared before me. But without light, it was like moving into a vampire's dwelling. I squatted, then took a breath. A deep one. Think, damn it, think, you fool. Searching for the little Fisher Space ballpoint pen, I took off my bulletproof jacket. Inbuilt with an LED is light emitting diode lighting system. It was the one special pen I always engaged in place of a standard spotlight in Afghanistan. I pulled off its lid and struck the switch on. Taking a glance at the tiny spotlight, I smiled briefly at the illumination. Still, I was in a crouching position. Beads of sweat hit the floor. I pricked my ears alert, wiping them off my forehead. Then I started towards the electrical and electronics computer. A dark blue tube struck my eye. It was made of a rare type of heat-resistant thermoplastic and served as an interface from the electrical and electronics computer to the cockpit electronics. Between my teeth, I clipped in the butt end of the tiny spotlight. Drool crusted one corner of my mouth. Again, I drew my little pen knife, held the dark blue tube in my hand, and made a longitudinal cut along the electrical and electronic computer base. Bravo! 3 wires emerged. One red, a blue one, and a green one. I reached for the red one, grasped it, and tore it apart. Then I grabbed the green one and tore it as well. The thicker blue came last. Quickly, I joined the two blue and green cables in quick twists. I could scarcely draw sufficient breath. But what would be the game plan? I disclosed that was to mess up with the communication radar. So that marks the end of today's episode. It was a pleasure to have you around. So up until the next one, goodbye.